The building blocks of financial freedom. It's wealth building. Support for the MILMO Show is provided by Navy Federal Credit Union. Being in debt can take a serious toll on your finances and mental well-being. Navy Fed can help you take control of your debt. They offer financial tools and resources designed to help you tackle debt. They're offering 0% intro APR on credit card balance transfers for 12 months. Plus, you can earn $250 when you spend $2,500 within the first 90 days on a Cash Rewards or a Cash Rewards Plus credit card. You can learn more at NavyFederal.org. Hey, welcome to the MILMO Show, where I help the military community make, save, and invest money wisely. I'm your host, Lacey Langford. Building wealth is a financial buzz phrase we all hear a lot. We all want to build up our wealth, but how do we get there, and what does that path look like for service members and their families? In this episode, Jerry Quinn shares actionable insights for military families looking to build wealth and achieve financial success, what wealth building means, and practical strategies for saving, investing, and navigating tight budgets. Jerry is a colonel in the Army Reserves who has spent more than 30 years working in banking and insurance, specifically on military and veterans, financial, housing, and career matters in those industries for the last 15 years. He is the Chief Operating Officer of American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, or AAFMAA, which was established in 1879. AAFMAA now has $23 billion of insurance in force. Since 9/11, AAFMAA has provided more than $1 billion to military and veterans and their families of the fallen. At AAFMAA, Jerry oversees all aspects of their life operations, including financial education, member benefits, and survivor services and life insurance. So here is my chat with Jerry. Hey, Jerry Quinn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lacey. It's great to be here.
I appreciate you coming in person. I think this is so much more fun for me, so I hope it is for you, like being able to have this conversation in person.
Yeah, it is. It's always fun to see you, and so I know this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, I want to start with wealth building. That phrase is a little bit of a buzzword. People hear it all the time and maybe thinking, I don't know that I'm in wealth building. Should I get into wealth building? What does wealth building mean to you?
Yeah. I've spent a long time in my career, first as a soldier, and then I got out of school and went to college and started as a banker. So wealth building and wealth looked different to me. I always wanted to be in finance and things like that. So I don't want to put words in other people's mouth, but for me, wealth building took the image of I wanted, freedom to do the things I want to do when I want to do them. And sometimes a job gives you that freedom, and sometimes entrepreneurship gives you that freedom. But eventually, wealth building translates to a number of different things, but ultimately it's about freedom and peace in your own life to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. And not crazy things. I'm talking about raise a family and raise them with great values and be able to see them and enjoy time with your family and friends. So wealth building to me, 30 years ago when I started in banking, it had a numerical dollar and cents number to it. Today, wealth building means more about that freedom and relationships and the ability to have those in the exact way that I want them to be in my future.
Your explanation made me really think about and it's a buzz phrase as well, is financial freedom. And that really does have a different meaning to everybody. So I'm glad I asked that question, because I think wealth building, what you're saying, like I have some of the same things in mind, but also my own version of that. So I think that's really important, because financial freedom to me might look completely different to what it looks to you or to somebody else.
Every individual is different, and they should examine what that is. Just like, what we choose as a career, or who we choose as a partner in life, or the family we raise. All of those are personal choices. Financial freedom takes on different shapes for every family based on many of those other choices and a person's values and commitments to certain things. Financial freedom for one person is very different. Financial freedom for me, when I was 29 years old and had my first new baby, I didn't know that there was financial freedom. There was no such thing.
It didn't feel free.
Money, yes, there wasn't anything freedom about my finances. But eventually, with good budgeting and good habits and good financial skills, financial freedom came, and I was really, truly able to then focus on wealth building and what my wealth picture looked like later in life.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like one leads to the other.
I think so.
What is the most important first step, or I guess steps, for military families that want to start on their journey to wealth building? Because a lot of people are in the position, like new baby, like everything is, they're stretching a dime.
Oh my gosh. And I feel for them. And I can feel it. I still feel it in my stomach.
Thinking.
The way I felt when I was young and we were, kind of holding it together and figuring out the unique ways to keep our budget afloat and all that stuff. But I would say that the most important thing for families, and this is going to be an obscure statement, get started. What does that mean? I want to get started, right? So somebody might be responding like, but you have to get started. If you've got to start with budgeting, okay, let's get started. And you and I can help them, right?
Yeah.
If it's savings, okay, then start today. Do it. But you must get started. And when you get started, you have to make a commitment. Listen, when I joined the Army a long, long time ago, I could not do the minimum number of push-ups, and I needed to practice that.
Me either, Jerry. Me
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
Not probably a big surprise on my part.
Well, or on mine, actually. But so I needed to practice that. And fits and starts, and so I practiced a little bit, and then I forgot to practice, and I didn't make any gains. And then that's okay. Your savings, if you commit to save $5 a week and you miss 2 weeks, that's okay. You can start again. And don't be discouraged. Just understand that that's part of getting good at it. But in order to begin your wealth building journey, you must get started. And if you need to know where to start on that journey, you and I have tons of resources that we can show that person exactly where to start.
Yeah, I think saying that out loud is really important. It is hard to start anything because you're worried about the outcome versus just jump in and figure it out. Like, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, no matter, I think entrepreneurship, there's so many things that I just don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. Like doing videos, it's like, what will that turn out to be? But if you keep worrying about all those little things that could go wrong with your money, actually, there's a lot of things that could go right, but you won't know until you get going.
That's right. You have to get started.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about wealth building? Because I think this is, again, like the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. I think that there's something, the words wealth building can be intimidating to people. And so take it down a notch and start with, you know what? I just want to get my finances in order. I just want to get my budget in order. So I think that there's a little bit of fear or intimidation, or that's not for me. I wasn't raised in the right kind of family. My wife and I each had to figure out how to pay for college. It's a big reason why I joined the Army. It was the only reason I joined the Army was for a college fund. And the Army wound up giving me so much more. But they did give me a college fund, and I did go to school on the GI Bill, and it did get me a degree in finance. And so there is this fear, I think, and it's only fear of the unknown, but many of us have walked that path. It's okay to link into trusted friends that you know or trusted organizations that you know and learn from them and overcome those fears. That's a lot. I mean, you do that a lot in your entrepreneurship. You're learning from other small businesses how they get over the next hurdle to grow their business and make it even more productive. So I think that families can do the same thing when they consider, none of us are going to be Elon Musk. Okay. I've reconciled to that.
I'm praying for it, but
yeah, right. But we also know that you can be, and it is a completely honest and fair goal for a military veteran to expect that they can be a millionaire. There's no doubt in my mind. Every veteran can. I shouldn't. There are certain limitations. I mean, some people cannot achieve that, but almost all veterans can pursue becoming a millionaire in a variety of different ways.
Well, this kind of leads to my next question is, if that's what you want, and I agree, like, that's so possible for everybody, that even, when you're young, you're making mistakes. Like, I can think of a million things that I blew my money on when I was young and enlisted. Like, you're young, you want to go out, you want to have a good time.
I got to interrupt you. Have I told you the story about the humongous Sony TV I bought? This is awesome.
I would love to hear it.
I'm going to tell it to you. I got promoted to PFC, and the AAFES, the Air Force Exchange Service, sent me a pre-approved credit card. I was pre-approved as a private first class for $750 of credit. And at AAFES, you don't pay tax, right? So the very next day, what cost do you think I spent on the TV I found at AAFES?
Back then,
I spent $750.
I was gonna say 500,
I racked up the entire credit card on one spend on this gigantic TV. It literally barely fit in my barracks room. my roommate and I had to like finagle stuff around.
Was it right here when you were watching?
Yes, exactly. So if you want to talk, we should talk about who's made the biggest financial mistakes in our life. The Sony TV. As a classic, I carried that big, heavy tube TV around with me for 10 or 12 years.
But those are lessons you learn. I think about that, like how embarrassing. I blew just going out and shoes, like just stupid stuff. Yeah. And I would have so much more had I saved that money. So I, could go either way. Like, those mistakes I've learned a lot from, it's cringeworthy, just being stupid with my money. Yep. But I could be further ahead. So my thing is, like, I just want you to meet me in the middle. Like, don't do all the stupid things I did.
That's right. But yeah, you can just ratchet it back a little bit. Right?
Yes.
That's right.
So my question is, what role does savings play in building wealth, and how can people kind of get started with that when they have this tight budget?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I say you got to start someplace, you got to start probably with savings. If you inherit a little bit of wealth, or the place that I was able to start is I went TDY early on. I was active duty. We didn't know what status we were in. We were on a deployment. We didn't know what status we were in, but we got back and we found out, oh, you were TDY. Oh, well, that's a whole lot of per diem. We were gone for a long, long time, and I think my commander maybe did it to me to make me work a little harder, but I went on advance party and I was the last one out of country as well. So I got the most days of anyone, and I had this humongous fat
back pay.
Of TDY pay that I spent way more of it than I should have. Had I invested the entire thing, it would have probably changed my life. But I spent a good portion of it, but I was able to save a portion of it as well. Later in life, and learning these lessons and things like that, I had an opportunity to save in the advantaged account that they give you when you're on deployment.
Yes.
I forget the name of the account, but it
just went out of my head.
It pays 10%. You max it out at $1,000. I think.
SDP, Savings Deposit Program. Yeah, I knew it was a company.
There it is. Thanks. Way to come up with it. So the Savings Deposit Program, I put my money in that and got my 10% earnings off of that, because I had learned the lesson years earlier about, hey, I need to take advantage of savings when I can. So savings is often where it is at. I would link that to what is your next step in your wealth journey? Some people on that are listening today, they might already have a pretty good little savings account. They might already have a good budget and a good emergency account. Maybe it's time for them to look at the next step. Might be home ownership. I would be a big proponent of home ownership. For those families that have good savings, good discipline around their budget, feel comfortable with their emergency savings account, that they should take the next step and step into home ownership, especially veterans. While I went into the Army to get a college fund, little did I know that I was also going to have access to the VA home loan, which allowed me access to home ownership earlier than I would have had access to it without it. And so the VA home loan guarantee program that virtually allows any veteran a home with no down payment. Our civilian counterparts are paying 5, 10, sometimes 20% down payment. But a veteran has a unique advantage in home ownership, and I've seen it happen. It's happened in my own family. You buy a home for zero money down. You put zero money at risk. You're going to pay your mortgage. You're going to pay rent or mortgage. You're going to pay a housing expense. But you now have the you are now investing in your own asset. This asset you own. It is 100% leveraged at the time. The bank has faith in you. They know you're going to pay them back. So as long as you make that payment, when you sell that house, history shows that that house is going to appreciate over time. Over time, it's not going to be a quick hit, but that real estate can and has in historical terms, has appreciated over time and can really generate some exponential wealth for a family. Think about it. If you didn't have to put any money in, and you're going to be making, instead of a rent payment, you're going to make a mortgage payment, and now you can leave. And literally, this has happened to, I'm thinking of a few people that I know. They literally turned that around in under 2 years for a $100,000 gain, allowing them to invest in yet a new property as they move out of that first one.
This is great because my next question was what type of investments for people that were wanting to get into wealth building, and home ownership is key in a lot of people's cases. But we were talking before this interview about, and I see it online too, you've seen it, there is a big wave of people advocating for not buying a home, to that not being part of their wealth building strategy, and instead just renting. And I see some of the things they're saying, like, for example, if you're single, maybe you can't keep the house up or something, or there's other reasons. But, like, why do you think that's good or bad that people are having this discussion now about renting versus investing in a home?
I personally, and this is going to be my own personal viewpoint, but it's based in data that I'm familiar with. I mean, I was reviewing some statistics from the National Association of Realtors. Yep, I'm that guy. That's why I comb my hair so nice and I wear a suit each day, is because I read statistics from the National Association of Realtors. But it is fascinating to me to see what home prices have done over the long haul. And home ownership is a great place to begin that wealth. Other investments. So home ownership is the place that I would say, and it has long been, you hear people talk about home ownership's long been the American dream. Entrepreneurship is also noted as an American dream. I think those are both two high quality American principles of wealth creation that are time honored and have worked for year after year after year. Doesn't always work. There's ups and downs, but in the long haul, entrepreneurship and home ownership can create wealth for people. In my own family, that's what we did. I bought my first house on a VA home loan. I was able to use the equity in that to buy our next home. Some of our homes we've been able to keep and, build a rental portfolio so you have cash flow. And so home ownership, I would say, is one of the first places that you can invest. You can also use your equity in your home at a later time to, either buy other real estate or start a business or send your kids to college. I encourage people retain their equity because equity is the foundation of wealth building. When your wealth building trickles down into dollars and cents, the foundation of that is equity. It's either equity in your stock portfolio, equity in your real estate, or equity in your business. That is the foundation of your wealth. And in home ownership, I think you can generate that equity faster because of the leveraged nature of home ownership. No one's going to loan you 100% of building your business, but the VA home loan will loan you 100% of the money you need to purchase a home, and you can build equity off of that over time.
What do you say to people that are on active duty that might be only staying at a place for 2 years and maybe don't understand the market, and then maybe they leave it behind and they rent it out, but then you're dealing with managing that property and the economy or that market changing?
Yeah, that becomes a very complicated question, and we do need to examine whether or not that home ownership would be right for them in that location. If they're only going to be there 2 years, or they know they're going on deployment, maybe it doesn't work for them. But eventually, every military career has some stabilization, or they know they're coming back to an area, And the real estate market is mature, so you do have property management firms, and it is relatively reasonable if you've bought the property at the right price. So you do have to find the right price, find value in the marketplace, and there's lots of real estate agents and brokers out there that can help you determine that. I will say that there's a lot written on how you find a decent real estate property and how you find a home, and investors will say, well, you got to go into growing markets. Well, a growing market today is a market that's not growing 20 years from now. And in real estate, we're talking about buy and hold kind of methodology. And so one of the things I've read a couple of books. One person has this concept that you always buy a property that always either has mountain views or a lake view. And that property will always have value. Truly, I have found that to be true, that those properties don't decrease in value. In recessionary times, they don't decrease in value like surrounding properties because they have intrinsic value that people always want. So they're always in higher demand than the surrounding market. So you have to find an attribute in the property that's high value. Maybe for active duty people, it's a house that's in a great community near the military installation that has a lot of the military community there. And as long as the military installation is going to be there and going to be stable, then you've got a property that is probably pretty well protected from recessionary times and can experience the goodness of inflationary pressures.
Yeah, there's some areas that I know schools, military schools, where they know there's always going to be people there renting, coming in. They know the schedule
because the schools are great. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
Or military school if you're going to the War College or
right. Right.
What's the one in Montgomery? There's always a market there for that.
Yep.
I mean, and so I think knowing that, but ours was always too safe areas because when we showed up we knew my husband would be gone, so it's like he didn't want to put me in a bad area.
Exactly.
So that was part of, if we bought a home, that was the commitment we were making, like might pay a little bit more, but the safety and security were huge.
And that is the very kind of thing that a family, so your opening question was, I'm only be here for 2 years, I might be traveling and stuff like that, but you got to take all of this into consideration and really contemplate what it is you want this house to do for you. Number one, it holds intrinsic value. Not only does it perhaps help you build wealth, but it does create safety for you. It is a reliable place to go. It's a place that you trust in having each and every day. And so you have to look at all of that. And I highly encourage people that are, looking into this, pardon me, people that are looking into home ownership as the next step for their wealth building, they should get with a real estate broker, have them share with them about the market. That's completely free. They don't charge you anything. They make money on the buy or the sell. And just appreciate that you're going to have to, that they have to make money too. So they do make money on their commission. But the whole time they're advising you, the whole time they're showing you different neighborhoods that meet your specific needs and what you want, they're also advising you on, well, this is a better neighborhood because of this. This is not as good of a neighborhood because of that. And that's helping you, narrow down your choices and where the right place is to buy.
Do people have to go beyond one home? Because I feel like that's sometimes buzz as well, like, get into real estate investing. And so then it's like more than one property. And I feel like you mentioned earlier, like, buying a home, you need to have your personal finances in order. You can't, have a bunch of debt and then committing to buy a home. But if, you have your ducks in a row financially, like, is that the next step, is to get a second home or get a duplex, like in the wealth building strategy with real estate?
I think there's a lot of people that get to that point. Certainly for my family, that's what's happened over time. But that's not for everybody. And I don't wish, renting and the problems that come with renting on anyone that doesn't want to do that. But for some people, even myself included, my early years of renting property, I became a pretty good handyman. I remember, replacing a hot water heater for these college students. I had a property right off a college campus, and the hot water heater went out, and I remember replacing that at dark 30 on a Saturday morning because you can't let them sit there without hot water, and it had burst. And but I learned how to put in a hot water heater. I don't wish that on anyone that doesn't want to do that. It's not always like that. It's the only hot water heater I've ever had to replace. But focus on the first house and trust the fact that if you've bought in a good neighborhood, you've bought the house that you believe has value, it will also have value to others, and it will increase in value, and the equity will be there for you if you want to use it, or if you just want to sustain that equity and know that it's a foundational component of your wealth.
While you were saying that, I just realized all the things we're talking about that I'm so guilty of is this, fear of getting started. And I always say I don't invest in real estate. I mean, obviously, we own our home, but not getting into more real estate because I'm just scared of the people. Like what could people do? But again, it's that fear of the unknown. So you just saying like, out of all of the real estate investing, only one hot water heater has gone out. So it's really like me, I would think it would be a lot more, like the frequency of that. And so that is important to know. Like, yeah, you got to get started, but there'll be some hiccups. But that's in anything that you do. And then realizing sometimes that it's not as scary. Like, especially if you have a property manager, their job is to handle that. And they have a team of handymen that handle it.
Yeah,
so,
but it costs you a little bit, right? You pay a premium. I mean, I can install the hot water heater myself for way cheaper. Yeah. But if you have a property management firm, they get a premium for coordinating all that. But that's sometimes what you need to do if you're on deployment. I remember one of my deployments, I had to tell my tenants, I managed all my properties, and my last deployment, I told them I was going on deployment. They always paid on time like clockwork. It was awesome. They were great tenants, and they were great properties. The minute I was out of country, one tenant went dark on me, completely dark, and I did not have a property manager. And can you imagine the property manager that heard from me from overseas? I'm overseas. I can't come to an office and sign anything. You need to trust that I literally am a real person, and that is really my property. I need you to. And so, I'm signing these contracts with a property management firm. They took me on. They took care of the property. They got the tenant out, and they got a new tenant in there while I was on deployment. That was the hardest way to get a property manager. I highly encourage you to research property managers in person before you need them.
I really want to know if you replace that hot water heater prior to YouTube or after YouTube, because then I'll be really impressed if you did that without YouTube.
I am going to impress you then. This was prior to YouTube.
That is awesome.
YouTube probably existed, but there's going to be people that are listening and probably laughing, especially when you look at me. I'm not the classic hot water heater guy, but, I've got a great set of tools. I had to get rid of so many tools when we moved to our house here because we were moving into a smaller house. And I've collected quite a repertoire of great tools. I can do some cool stuff, but generally I do the hard stuff only one time. That's why the hot water heater's only been replaced once. But that was a great exercise, and I learned so much in that. You learn a lot. I don't know. It was very valuable to me, and it gives me greater confidence in managing my properties and understanding what my properties are going through. Even to this day, I do generally fix the heaters myself because I know how the heaters work. So I do a lot of the heater work myself on our properties. It's a weird thing, but HVAC work is very expensive, so I choose to do that on my own.
That reminded me of a great business idea that I thought of is a tool shop, like a local out of your own garage, renting out tools to people that don't have them, don't want to buy the tool. I know a lot of military installations used to have that where you could go like the hobby shop or the woodworking shop, auto body shop where you could like rent stuff or you could take your car there. So I really wish they bring those back, but I think more and more maybe people aren't working on their stuff, but I'm of the fix it mentality. I get that from my dad.
I don't think it's a good business plan because all the tools that I've loaned out never came back to me, Lacey. so I'm not sure it's profit making, but you sure are known as a nice person when you do that.
The civilian community doesn't take a lost tool as seriously as like the Air Force does.
That's probably true as well.
There's been so many evenings where my husband didn't come home because of a lost tool.
Is that right? Yes. Trying to find where is that thing.
My favorite story is like, where did they eventually find it? Oh, it was in somebody's pocket. Like, was that not the first place everybody looked?
Right.
They should pat people down. You can't trust people. Like
that's
it's like they just put it a little way in their pocket, and they didn't. It was further down in their pocket.
They didn't even think of it.
Or they put it in their cargo pocket. You know, they're like so baggy. So anyway, okay, horrible business idea. I'll just scratch that one off. Unless you can find a better way to make it profitable, or like they now with Apple AirTags. It might be.
That might be. That might work.
Or when those clothing tags, like if you break it off, like it's gonna explode, die on you.
Yeah,
that might be another way to.
I didn't know what those clothing tags did. Did you learn that? You didn't learn that the hard way.
No, actually, I don't know if they. I'm sorry, that's banking things that if you steal the money, it explodes on you. I think they just set off a buzzer. They're also a pain in the butt. I don't know if you've ever gone. I've dresses have had them in the hem and they didn't catch it, and I left the store with it, so then I had to bring it back to.
And then you had to convince them that you actually bought it.
Well, I had the receipt, so definitely keeping the receipt for those.
Right.
So. Okay, so we talked about real estate investing. What are some other ways that people can build wealth?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's not for everyone, and it might not be in their time at that moment. Like you say, active duty families that are moving into an area just for a short period of time. But there are other things you can do, and you really should look into this. First of all, the blended retirement system, as painful as it was for people to convert to the blended retirement system, I think there's some tremendous benefits to the blended retirement system. My son was joining the Marines right at the time the blended retirement system was coming out. I said, listen, get signed up for the blended retirement system, get your max match immediately, and begin learning about the funds that are available for you to invest in. Go out, you can do your own research, you can read about them. You don't even need, it's okay that you don't have an education around that. Begin to learn, pick the ones you want, see how they do, and let your blended retirement system begin to grow. So if you have access to a 401k, matched funds, blended retirement system, matched funds in the military, take advantage of those first and foremost. Max those out. I would even say be sure you're doing that to get the maximum match from your employer, even before investing in real estate. You might be able to do the both at once, right? Especially if you're taking advantage of the VA home loan guarantee where you don't need a down payment. So take advantage of any employer match that you can get in a 401k or blended retirement system. TSP, go ahead and use the TSP. It's a very inexpensive way to save money, and it's a very convenient way to save money in a relatively safe way. Again, you get to look at the different funds that are available to you, choose what is most comfortable to you right now. Again, you don't need a tremendous amount of education. Read up on the information that's available to you.
They have a good website.
It's a pretty good website. Yeah. You don't have to spend all the time reading every page of the prospectus. Recognize that these have already been vetted by professionals in the field, and they're only being offered to you because they do already have a semblance of certain safety and guardrails that it's not money that's going to disappear on you tomorrow. It'll go up and down with the market based on the information that you read about the different fund. So take advantage of those funds. Once you've done those things, are you ready for and can you step into some mutual fund investing? There's a lot of very easy mutual fund investing through Wall Street organizations, common names that are known, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price. They all have very easy access for the consumer like you and I to make very simple investments into their funds that they have available. While it's not completely free, the expenses are disclosed and they're basically taken off of the net earnings that you would, or the growth in your account. So it's not like you're not going to get a bill from them every month. It'll be taken out of the investments that you're making. It'll be taken off of your net asset value. But begin, and then you can learn there. And through mutual funds, you can learn about investing in a relatively safe way. And the beauty of mutual funds for the new investor is that it gives you immediate diversification, which is a key component of risk management. So the TSP funds that are available to you, the blended retirement system funds that are available to you, and mutual funds all are an amalgamation of different investments. And that grouping of investments inherently reduces risk because of diversification. That's a story for a different day.
No, but that's a good point. Like, those things are basic and available. It doesn't have to be fancy. I think that's the buzz that's created.
Do not think that this has to be fancy. Eventually, families do need a wealth advisor, just like somebody might need a property manager when they have a lot of property. Eventually, families with a lot of wealth, and if you're over $500,000 in net worth, it might be time to interview a couple of wealth managers and see if they can help you, improve your results and that kind of thing, or ensure that you've built proper protections. But before that, it's totally okay for you, and there's a lot of resources available to you and completely free of charge. Literally, you could go to schwab.com today and you can read up on a number of ways that you can get started with $50 or $100 a month in beginning investing. And you'll sign up for a couple of newsletters. You'll start to learn more about investing. So that's investing. For people that don't want to be in the market, they're worried about the market. Lots of people are talking, the market gets talked about quite a bit. High yield savings accounts are good, safe investments. For the young service member or young veteran, I would encourage you to try to get into the mutual fund investing, the blended retirement system, the TSP investing, and then eventually into more sophisticated investing as you get comfortable with it. If you stick with savings, you're not going to learn anything new. Savings is savings, but right now, savings is not keeping up with inflation. So the value of your dollar is going down because the savings rate is not able to keep up with inflation. And it's like, it's not quite as bad, but it's like shoving money into your mattress. It's not going to grow, and you really need it to grow. That is one of the key components of wealth building, is you need to put your money in a place where equity appreciation is likely. Real estate, long-term history of growing over time. Stocks and bonds, long-term history of growing over time. And you don't have to dive in with everything, and you don't need thousands of dollars to get started. You can start with small amounts that are comfortable for you now. But back to question number one, you just got to get started.
It's a very good point. Very good point. What you brought up there, can you explain the right place for the money and the timing? So like you mentioned high yield savings account, like what's that great for? Like emergency savings versus like your home? Like, cause I think a lot of times people hear this is where I should have stuff, but then it's like, oh, well, we're getting ready to have a kid go to college, or we're getting ready to need a new car, and they've put their money in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Yep. That's a really good point. I'm not the best person to ask, and here's why. I don't use a high yield savings account because the money is too accessible to me. I want to put my money to work. I want it to work for me, and I'm willing to accept some decreases in the market if I need that money. But my emergency fund is invested.
That's what I was getting at. So that's a good point. And some people are different. Like they want their emergency fund in a high yield, but you can but you know what the consequences.
Yeah.
When you have that emergency.
That's right. And I'm not investing in. My emergency fund isn't in Bitcoin, high volatility, intrinsic weird values, all this stuff. But my emergency fund is in an investment that will force me to liquidate an investment, move the money. I really have to want that money. We do. Our family has a trip coming up. I will have to plan, the week earlier. I'll liquidate funds. I'll have it moved back over to my checking account, and I'll pay for the trip that we have planned. But that, and if an emergency were to occur, the same thing would happen. I would buy myself 2 or 3 days in that emergency. Not all families. All families should have $1,000 or $1,500 available to them in case the car breaks down and they have to get it towed and have to pay somebody immediately. But your emergency fund is often bigger than $1,000 or something like that. So,
what are common mistakes people make when it comes to wealth building?
you know, the number one thing is that people aren't willing to get started or stay with it. The market today has been really pretty great, and it's not always like that. And so when it's not so great, people need to be prepared for that. And so, you know, I'm not sure that today is the day that you should be investing in super high risk things. The market has returned more than 20% over the past 2 years. And some people are saying that it's going to do it again a third year. Well, that's never, I think it's happened one time, and it happened right before the dot-com bubble burst back in the late 90s. So is the market high? Perhaps. But but if you recognize that the market may be high and your appetite for investing is not, you know, if you're not super if you feel like you're not well educated in it, don't get risky, don't get fancy. Do some simple things. Again, there are many TSP funds that you can invest in, and some of them are the funds you should be in a recessionary time. And you just need to read the description of each. And some of them are bonds, and some of them have a balanced approach or a time horizon approach, where eventually the market comes back as long as you've got time. The important thing, really, you've got to not concentrate on trying to time the market. When's the right time to get in? But time in the market. So money that you plan on investing today should be money that you are planning on keeping in the market for a long period of time, longer than a year, longer than 2 years. You know, consider it truly an investment, which is a long-term asset for your family.
Yes, I love that. I like too that you said there, you get started, but stay on it. Like, and that goes back to the push-up. Like, yeah, you got started, but you didn't keep going, and then so all your gains were lost.
That's right.
So I think that's really important. How can people that are trying to get started get inspired? Because it's this fear of getting started, and it's hard not knowing. How can they just get going?
Listen to a number of your guests. They are inspirational, and you know, you introduce us to people that have taken the risks and have been willing to make that leap. And it is a little hard and it is a little scary, but it'll be scary at the next bridge that you come to as well, and it'll be scary again later on. But if you don't get started now, you'll never know what you're able to achieve.
I love that. All right, I want to switch gears real quick. I ask everybody 2 quick random questions. First off, what is one resource or tool that you use that makes your life or work easier?
I use a paper day planner. It is actually a day planner from a sales guy I learned about when I was a young man, Zig Ziglar. He produces a day planner, and I use his day planner pretty religiously. He's a very encouraging salesperson, and he's got a very encouraging methodology. I get some great quotes in there, and it's paper, so I write it down. So my day planner is really important to me.
I love it. There's power in putting, you know, pen to paper, I think.
There is.
In doing
for me,
something.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. What is your favorite book right now, or your favorite book of all time?
I have a lot of favorite books. An awful lot of them have to do with investing. But one book I was introduced to by a mentor as I was graduating college was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And the Dale Carnegie group, they do an awful lot of things around relationship building and about knowing other people and understanding how relationships work. And have done a lot of good work around good business practices and being your best in business. And so it really resonated with me back then. And it's a book I refer to anyone that I mentor or mentee with. It's a book we refer to frequently.
I love that. That's one I've never read, but I've heard great things about it. It's on my reading list. I actually keep it in my phone, so I'm always ready to like tee up another book. But that's one I need to.
Here's the fun thing about that book is that because it's written by a business person, and you can read some cliff notes on how to win friends and influence people, and get the about 10 steps or 10 key things that he wants you to learn. And so it's a quick way to get the principle of the book down.
That's actually a really great idea. I should start doing that on a few more books that are just on my list that I just haven't gotten to. So that's a good idea. All right, now it is time for my favorite part of the podcast, which is game time. And in honor of your in-person visit today to the show, we are going to play rock, paper, scissors.
All right.
So we're going to do best 2 out of 3. And just as a review, this is rock, right?
Okay,
I have not played this in a while. Rock, paper, scissors.
All right.
Okay, so we'll do 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Okay.
Yes, so we know the rules. Okay, so here we go. All right, 1, 2, 3, shoot. Oh, dang it, I lost that one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, shoot. Is that
tie?
Tie. Okay, 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Oh, I got you right.
Yeah, so you won. You got best 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3, just
I was
like
a little rusty there.
Yeah, I know. That is. Next time we play, I'm going to make sure you're rusty at whatever game we play, because see, I still have to play this with my grown children in order to figure out where we're eating and what we're doing with our day. So
I should use that on my boys. That's a really great idea. Right. Well,
good.
I appreciate you coming in person. It's great to see you.
Wait, just a minute. I do get bragging rights, right?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. You do.
I do. I just need to be sure I get the reward that I have coming to me on rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
I finally beat Lacey at something, and it was rock, paper, scissors.
Yes. You get bragging rights that you won game time on the MILMO show.
Okay,
it's a big deal. Jerry.
Yes, I know.
I'm trying to encourage. I'm waiting for the day somebody puts it on their LinkedIn. Like just.
This might wind up on mine. I have a win today. I'm going to put a check mark in.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
But thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Tell everybody listening where they can learn more about you and the work you're doing.
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jerry Quinn Service, LinkedIn, and easy to do. And also AAFMAA.com. So the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. Been around since 1879, highly trusted organization to provide insurance and a tremendous amount of other benefits to military members and their families. AAFMAA.com. That's AAFMAA.com.
Wonderful. I'll be sure to put links to all that in the show notes for everybody. But
thanks
again,
a lot,
thank
Lacey.
you for being here.
Always great to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks to Jerry for coming on the show to talk about wealth building for military families. Also, thank you to Navy Federal for providing support to the MILMO show. You can head over to milmo.co to get all of the links for this show and resources. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for the MILMO newsletter to get all of my updates. I appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you next week.